Excellencies, distinguished panelists, dear colleagues and online participants, welcome to this high-level side event on cyber violence against women and girls, closing legal, policy, and technical gaps. This event is being broadcast and is being recorded. Now, I have to make a technical announcement for people joining us online. Due to technical constraints, the interpretation will only be in English for people joining us online. For people in the room, the English channel is #1 on this device and #4 for French. My name is Farida Benna, and I am the Director of Diplomacy at Every Woman, which is a coalition of over 4,000 activists and women's rights organizations from 165 countries, all working together to end violence against women and girls. I will be your moderator for this event today, which Every Woman is co-organizing with the Permanent Mission of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, who is represented here by Ambassador Mpole Losoko Efambe, who will speak right after me, and the Permanent Mission of the Kingdom of Morocco, which I would like to thank. We are also very honored to have His Excellency, Mr. Samuel Mbemba Kabuya, Minister of Human Rights from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, who has kindly agreed to deliver opening remarks. This event is our contribution to the annual global campaign of 16 Days of Activism against the gender-based violence. And as I hope many of you know, this year's focus is on digital violence against women and girls. Now, we all go online for a number of reasons, to express our thoughts, to educate ourselves, to work, and so on. But for too many women and girls, according to the latest estimates, between 16 and 58% of women and girls worldwide, this digital experience is often associated with harassment, fear, and intimidation. This type of violence amplifies offline inequalities and discrimination with very real consequences for the safety, the mental health, the well-being, and the freedom of women and girls to participate in public life. But today our goal is not only to discuss this alarming trend, it's also to come together and share concrete solutions, identify what we can do together, what's already being put in place, and what could be scaled up for greater impact. So let me briefly share what will happen over the next 90 minutes. After opening remarks by Ambassador Mpole and a keynote intervention by Minister Kabuya, we will hear a presentation by Mr. Marcus Temeseder from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, who is joining online from Vienna. Welcome. We will then hold a discussion with our distinguished panelists, His Excellencies Mr. Mai Van Zung, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Welcome. Her Excellency Dr. Fancy Chepkemoi II, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Republic of Kenya. Welcome. Mr. Stefano Pizzotti, Minister, Counselor, and Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy. Welcome. And finally, Ms. Jane Aberhard Hodges, Senior Representative from Civil Society. Welcome. We will then have an interactive session with questions and comments from the floor as well as from the online chat. Then a final round of comments from the panelists and closing remarks by Ambassador Mpole and myself. So I look forward to what I'm sure will be a rich and enriching discussion on how together we can prevent and respond to cyber violence against women and girls. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to invite Ambassador Mpole Losoko Efambe to also say a few words. Ambassador Mpole, je vous en prie.
Thank you, Farida. And I want to take advantage of the translation and to make the multilateralism and the multilingualism works once possible. I will make my statement in French, please. Excellences, Monsieur le Ministre, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, distinguished representatives of member countries, and distinguished colleagues. On behalf of the co-organizers, that is the permanent mission of Morocco and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and every woman, wish a warm welcome to this high-level event organized as a part of the theme of 16 Days of Activism. This year dealing with putting an end to digital violence against all women and girls, dealing with the legal, political, and technical gaps that still exist. Indeed, digital space has become a part of everyday life. It is an area of education, political debate, socialization. Nevertheless, that same space exposes women and girls to new forms of violence and discrimination. Violence exists and is exacerbated by this technology. We've got online harassment, the dissemination of non-consented images, human trafficking facilitated by this technology. And this is something that is fully acknowledged by human rights institutions as a current problem, that is online violence with the serious impact that it has on safety, dignity, and fundamental freedom of victims. Now, fighting this is something that is an imperative for human rights, defense, and for development. And I think that you will be hearing about this later. Under the leadership of our president, Felix Tshisekedi, the fight against this kind of violence is a part of our national policy, stated very clearly. The idea is to make the protection and dignity of each woman and young girl at something at the heart of our national development. Because of this, the head of the Democratic Republic of Congo has set this forth as a goal. He has acted as an active ally for the prevention of violence here, in particular against the women and girls. Distinguished colleagues, this event will give us the possibility to strengthen our thinking on how to attain the very ambitious goals that we have set forth and help us come up with a more robust legal framework, a reinforcement of our policies, and encourage technological actors to fully assume their responsibilities. Let me express my deepest thanks to all participants present here, as well as the organizers and all who will enrich our discussion this afternoon. Your expertise is essential for us to find the road to the sustainable goals we wish to achieve. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Let me now invite Minister Samuel Mbemba Kabuya to give us his opening remarks.
With long experience in both parliament and government. He was appointed Minister for Human Rights earlier this year and focuses on strengthening national human rights protection and accountability mechanisms. Monsieur le ministre, je vous en prie.
Mesdames et messieurs, les ambassadeurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, representatives of United Nations agencies, distinguished members and partners of Every Woman, ladies and gentlemen, experts from countries present here. It's an honor for me to take the floor at the occasion of this side event during the high-level meeting. We are dealing with cyberviolence against women and girls. First, let me transmit to you the warm felicitations of my country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as its President, His Excellency Felix Tshisekedi. He has chosen Every Woman to help pilot the protocol to CEDAW, aiming at an elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. Today's event is for us a step which will be one step more towards the adoption of that protocol. Ladies and gentlemen, the head of state of the Democratic Republic of Congo, as you know, had been plebiscited in 2021 as champion of positive masculinity by the African Union, following his commitment to the promotion and defense of women and young girls' rights on the African continent and throughout the world. I would like to address my most heartfelt thanks to the Every Woman Coalition and to our ambassador in Geneva for having associated us with the organizing of this event, which is of the highest importance. And all this without forgetting Madame Chantal Yeroup and her commitment. She's been working with the organization for years as a focal point designated by the President of the Republic. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from the very dawn of mankind, women have always been victims of all sorts of violence. And the international community has not succeeded in eradicating this. Today, the digital world, despite all of the advantages that it may have in our daily life, to all human beings, facilitating education, employment, civic participation, debates and discussions, both political and social, is nevertheless, at the same time, a space used by human beings to commit all kinds of violations vis-a-vis women and girls. Despite the technology, women and girls are victims of threats, intimidation, harassment, the non-consented dissemination of obscene images, hate speech, without forgetting that thanks to this technology, crimes can be perpetrated, that is, human trafficking. Now, ladies and gentlemen, despite the prevalence of this and the damage that it inflicts politically, economically, psychologically, and socially, despite this, cybercriminality also favors the fact that women are more and more the target of all of these misdeeds. Unfortunately, on a governmental level, internationally, we're not able to sanction correctly, justly, these violations. Now, this violence, it doesn't just have to do with women as individuals. There are also economic consequences that are linked to this. Proof is that currently the figures verified I had confirm that, for example, in Europe, this leads to a loss of 366 billion euros per year. In the case of the DRC, 2 women out of 3 from 15 to 49 years of age are victims of sexual violence from a close partner. In certain conflict areas, this proportion soars to 70%. And this is in 2023, 5,000 survivors have been cared for by Doctors Without Borders, basically 2 women per hour. These terrifying figures only reflect part of the reality, nevertheless. Concerning economic figures, the DRC loses about 1% of its GDP. In other words, $600 million per year from violence to women and girls. Now, aware of this, President Tshisekedi has decided to take public action to prevent this. Under his leadership, violence against women and girls has become a national political priority and one of the pillars of our governance. 3 major areas make up this response. First, political leadership, reparative justice, and cultural transformation. Now, the creation of a presidential coordinating committee directly attached to the president's office has allowed us to ensure accountability and strategic piloting using instruments like CIAVA and FUNAREV. Hence, we are working to have a long-lasting reparation for survivors. This institutional effort is paralleled by a cultural revolution. Here, the Kinshasa Declaration on Positive Masculinity, adopted by heads of state and government in Africa in 2021, which invites men to become actors themselves of change instead of just spectators. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, let me just point out that the DRC is very pleased to see the holding of this event and is very pleased to contribute to the debates and discussions, to share its experience, and to strive for digital violence against women and young girls be recognized as serious a crime as offline violence. Working with other actors here, we are going to generate a political commitment to ensure legal protection, cross-border cooperation, and victim support in the digital field. Bear in mind that the DRC has adopted legislation here, legislation that criminalizes this activity. The law was voted in 2023, and there is also a presidential decree that punishes cybercriminality. Overall, but also in particular, violence when it perpetrates violence against women and girls. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have strong hopes that our discussions will lead to a strengthening of the political will of the invited governments here and our multi-actor partners here, so that cyber violence is recognized as a major form of prejudice against women and girls. This scourge necessitates a coordinated response, both legally and in victim reparation. Altogether, let us act to lead a very noble fight and put an end to cyber violence against women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Minister
Thank you very much, Minister Kabuya.
First of all, what we are facing, I mean, giving us such a comprehensive, informative state of play of violence against women and girls online. And then also, thank you for showing the leadership role that the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is taking on so many levels in terms of promoting positive masculinity, in terms of promoting access to justice and reparation for survivors of online violence, and also for really addressing the issue on a cultural level. We really appreciate your leadership at the national and international level. It is high time we made violence against women and girls a global priority because it is a global public emergency. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Marcus Stemeseder from Vienna. He's joining us online. Mr. Stemeseder is an associate expert in cybercrime within the Cybercrime and Technology section of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. He will present the new Convention on Cybercrime, which was adopted late last year and open for signature in Hanoi, Vietnam, at the end of October this year. So, Mr. Stemeseder, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Farida. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear participants. It is a
I'm
privilege.
sorry, Mr. Stemeseder, could you speak up, please? It's hard to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A bit
Can you hear me
better.
Okay, maybe it is an issue with my microphone. I will try to speak up. Can you hear me correctly now?
This is fine. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. It is a privilege to speak at this high-level event on cyber violence against women and girls, an issue that represents one of the most pressing challenges in our increasingly interconnected world. Information and communications technology have transformed our world in extraordinary ways, connecting us across continents, democratizing information, and creating unprecedented opportunities. But it has also transformed crime and violence. As you may know, cybercrime has exploded from sophisticated attacks on ICT systems to technology-facilitated violence against women and girls. And the scale is sobering. As we have heard, statistics indicate that between 16% and 58% of women have experienced some form of online violence. 38% of women worldwide have faced online abuse, and 58% have witnessed it. While many cases go unreported, these numbers underscore the urgency of a global response. Child sexual abuse material proliferates relentlessly online. Intimate images are shared, downloaded, and stored permanently without consent. Perpetrators operate with disturbing ease and anonymity, and the same platforms that bring us together are used to harm women and girls in ways we could scarcely have imagined a generation ago. These threats are real and they are growing. Yet our legal frameworks remain fragmented. The electronic evidence needed to prosecute criminals rests on servers scattered across jurisdictions, and perpetrators exploit these gaps systematically and with impunity. In view of these challenges, the international community initiated a comprehensive response. In 2019, the UN General Assembly established the ad hoc committee to elaborate a comprehensive international convention on countering the use of information and communications technologies for criminal purposes. Over 8 substantive sessions, the committee brought together more than 150 member states and 160 stakeholders, including from civil society, academic institutions, and private sector representatives. The resulting convention represents a carefully calibrated consensus with important criminal law updates to counter violence against women and girls online and necessary complements on prevention and capacity building for a sustained response. The convention opened for signature in a signing ceremony in Hanoi, generously hosted by the government of Vietnam on 25th October 2025. And during this 2-day signing ceremony, 71 states and the European Union signed the convention, marking the highest number of initial signatories for any UN treaty in over a decade. This represents an important step forward in countering cybercrime and violence against women and girls. Yet, signing is merely the first step, and the convention's true power will only emerge when 40 states ratify the convention to bring it to life and make it fully operational. In the meantime, the ad hoc committee will continue its work by elaborating the draft rules of procedure for the future conference of the states parties, and it will reconvene to negotiate a protocol supplementing the convention over 2 sessions in 2027 and 2028, addressing inter alia additional criminal offenses as appropriate. The convention introduces provisions that directly address certain specific manifestations of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, establishing a comprehensive framework for the protection of women and girls in the digital age. First, the convention establishes the comprehensive criminalization of online child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Its articles address every stage of this crime, from production and distribution to possession and access, ensuring that all children under the age of 18 receive full protection under international law. Second, The Convention criminalizes the solicitation and grooming for the purpose of committing a sexual offense against a child. Critically, this provision extends criminal liability to preparatory acts, enabling law enforcement to intervene before abuse occurs and preventing harm at its earliest stages. Third, the Convention addresses a significant gap in global legal frameworks by criminalizing the non-consensual dissemination of intimate images. This provision establishes for the first time a universal standard to combat this deeply harmful conduct that has proliferated in our digital era. And finally, the Convention establishes the liability of legal persons, requiring states to hold companies and service providers accountable when they directly participate in cybercrime. This provision recognizes that the effective protection of women and girls requires the accountability not only of individual perpetrators, but from all entities that enable or facilitate such crimes. Criminalization alone, however, is not everything. The Convention also requires states to empower their competent authorities to preserve and collect electronic evidence for any crime under domestic law, and to exchange such evidence for serious crimes, including such links to trafficking in persons or other forms of violence that disproportionately affect women and girls. It obliges states to provide comprehensive assistance and protection to victims and survivors, including compensation, psychological recovery, and swift removal of non-consensually shared intimate images and child sexual abuse material. The Convention also promotes a gender-sensitive approach to implementation, encourages awareness campaigns and digital literacy programs about safe online practices to eradicate gender-based violence. Finally, it promotes technical assistance and capacity building, training law enforcement and sharing best practices globally. The Convention complements existing international frameworks, particularly the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW. While CEDAW establishes the normative framework for gender equality, the Cybercrime Convention provides some specific tools for addressing technology-facilitated manifestations of violence. The Convention should be interpreted in harmony with existing commitments under international and regional human rights systems and specialized frameworks addressing violence against women and girls. So as we advance implementation, several priorities emerged that would transform the Convention into meaningful protection for women and girls. First, we need to integrate its criminalization provisions in our existing frameworks. The Convention's provisions on child sexual abuse material, grooming, and non-consensual dissemination of intimate images address violence against women and girls, and our legal frameworks need to reflect this. We also need to facilitate and promote robust enforcement procedures on preserving and collecting electronic evidence while ensuring compliance with international human rights standards. Second, we need to build comprehensive capacity across our entire justice systems. This means training law enforcement officers, prosecutors, judges, not only in electronic evidence collection, but also in understanding how perpetrators use technology for violence against women and girls. We are also talking more about not only technical skills, but that responders need to recognize power dynamics in digital spaces and to approach survivors with trauma-informed care. Third, we need to forge genuine partnerships with digital platforms to counter and prevent violence against women and girls. We have successful models to follow, like stopncii.org, which uses hash matching technology brilliantly. When a survivor reports an intimate image, It creates a digital fingerprint that automatically blocks the image across all participating platforms. We need cooperative frameworks with platforms actively to prevent harm rather than just removing content after the damage is done, supported by independent oversight that ensures accountability while fostering information. Fourth, we need to create comprehensive support systems that truly serve survivors. And this means establishing accessible reporting channels to report to police, receive care, access counseling, and get legal assistance. Fifth, we need to activate cross-border cooperation as soon as possible to prevent perpetrators from hiding behind borders and enhance coordination for content takedowns. Sixth, we need to invest in prevention. This means integrating digital education into school curricula, teaching safe online behavior, and we need to encourage men and boys as allies against online misogyny and transform digital culture at its roots. And we must involve women's rights organizations in policy development and cooperation with tech sector and innovation. These priorities work together as a comprehensive response. Prevention reduces the number of cases we see, better training improves our investigations, platform accountability stops abuse at its source, and survivor support encourages reporting. International cooperation ensures that perpetrators face justice regardless of borders, while data collection drives continuous improvement in our responses. The Convention gives us a legal framework and a practical roadmap to fulfill our obligations under both this Convention and CEDAW, demonstrating that protecting women and girls in digital spaces is fundamental to achieving gender equality. So the Convention provides some new tools to protect women and girls offline and online, and now we need to use them. This is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Themesteter. This is a very clear presentation of the full array of tools that we have at our disposal on a legal, policy, technical level to adequately address, prevent, and respond to online violence against women and girls. I know we're a bit behind schedule, so I'm not going to comment on what you said, but just to flag that what really struck me was that this convention can really help take a gendered approach to cybercrime through global cooperation, and also something you mentioned that I would like to also discuss later on, cooperation with social media platforms. We are now moving to the panel discussion, and I would like to kindly ask all the panelists to keep their intervention concise. We will start with Ambassador Mai Van Dung of Vietnam to tell us about Vietnam's role in hosting the signing ceremony of the Cybercrime Convention, but also to tell us about other steps that Vietnam is taking to really bring this convention and other relevant binding legislation that can help tackle the problem of online violence against women and girls to life at the domestic level. So, Ambassador, you have the floor. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Excellences, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to, first of all, to thank you to the permanent mission of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Kingdom of Morocco, and every woman for having organized this important discussion and debate. And so,
2025, Vietnam had the honor of hosting the signing ceremony of the UN Convention Against Cybercrime, now known as the Hanoi Convention. At that historic gathering, 71 countries and the European Union, representing every region of the world, came together to sign this landmark instrument. At this event, Vietnam's president emphasized the core spirit of this convention, a convention of the rule of law, of cooperation, and the people. He also emphasized that technology must serve humanity, that development must bring opportunities for all, and that no one should be left behind in global digital transformation, especially women and children, who are among the most vulnerable to cyber threats. The Hanoi Convention represents more than a legal framework. It creates a foundation for international cooperation while respecting national sovereignty and demonstrates unprecedented solidarity in addressing global security challenges. The signing ceremony brought together over 2,500 delegates from 119 countries and 120 international and regional organizations, and was assessed as the largest treaty event in the past 10 years. For Vietnam, hosting this ceremony was both a great honor and a responsibility to the international community. Dear colleagues, our commitment of Vietnam to protecting women and girls online extends well beyond hosting the convention signing. We have undertaken comprehensive national actions. Digital transformation is creating tremendous opportunities, but also bringing new, sophisticated, and hard-to-detect risk. According to a recent report, an estimated 94,000 children per year become victims of online sexual exploitation and abuse in Vietnam. This figure represents 23% of children who have inadvertently encountered sexual content online. The emerging phenomenon of online kidnapping, where victims are threatened, coerced, and turned into mental prisoners remotely, specifically target young women. 90% of the 50 victims rescued since mid-2024 were female students aged from 18 to 22. Vietnam has issued the program on protecting and supporting children's healthy and creative interaction in the online environment for the 2021-2025 period, aimed at proactively preventing, detecting, and handling acts of child abuse online. We established an inter-ministerial coordination mechanism to receive information, investigate, and handle cases of child abuse in the online environment. Decree number 13, 2023 on personal data protection specifically protects children's data according to the principle of the best interest of the child. In November 2025, Vietnam launched the National Action Month on Gender Equality with the theme Gender Equality and Safety for Women and Girls in Digital Era, reflecting our recognition that digital violence is not separate from offline violence. It is an extension of it. The Vietnam's Women's Union has established a network of legal and psychological counseling groups at both central and local levels. From 2017 to 2022, there were more than 31,000 cases of violence reported and denounced by women, and many serious cases were handled promptly. Vietnam operates also 7 sunshine houses nationwide, providing comprehensive support to victims of gender-based violence, including those facing online abuse. The Ministry of Information and Communication implemented a trust campaign with the message, Virtual Space, Real Trust, attracting over 130 million views and more than 1 million anti-fake news videos, helping protect women and children from misleading and toxic information. The Fake News Processing Center has handled over 7,500 reports since 2021, requesting platform to remove over 700 toxic contents. Notably, we recently launched the Not Alone campaign with the patronage of UNODC and UNICEF, aiming to reach 12 million adolescents aged from 12 to 24 and communicate to 22 million pupils and students. The message not alone is society collective commitment. Every child has a right to be safe, protected, and heard, both in the real life and in cyberspace. We work directly with the technology platforms. Facebook has a block and removed 105 toxic groups related to children and women. Google removed 441 violating applications. Apple removed 150 applications, and TikTok upgraded its moderation team in Vietnam to better control content and protect women and girls online. Vietnam also participated as a core group member for the resolution on promoting international technical cooperation to protect children online, adopted by the Human Rights Council in July 2025. Dear colleagues, the Hanoi Convention provides unprecedented opportunities to address cyber violence against women and girls at scale. First, its provision on international cooperation are critical. Cyber violence across borders. The perpetrator in one country can target victims across continents. The convention enables cross-border investigation, evidence exchange, and accountability. Second, it addresses the reality that many countries, particularly in the global south, lack the specialized capabilities to investigate and prosecute technology-facilitated crimes. The convention commits signatories to support each other in building these capacities. Third, the convention creates space for public-private partnership. Technology companies control the platform where violence occurs. The convention encourages cooperation between governments and private sector. Specifically, the article on non-consensual dissemination of intimate images directly addresses a form of cyber violence that disproportionately affects women and girls. Other articles criminalize child sexual abuse material and online child solicitation. In closing, I call for 3 concrete actions. First, all member states should sign and promptly ratify the Hanoi Convention so it may enter into force and begin delivering results for women and girls. Second, we must dedicate resources, financial, technical, and human, to gender-sensitive implementation, particularly supporting developing countries in building specialized capacity. And third, we must work together across regions, sharing experiences, coordinating investigations, and holding perpetrators accountable regardless of borders. So Vietnam stands ready to contribute. We are committed to ensure that Hanoi Convention becomes a powerful tool for protecting women and girls in digital age. I thank you.
Many thanks, Ambassador Mai Fan Zung, for your leadership in hosting the opening for signature of the Cybercrime Convention, but also for these very practical 3 steps that you have suggested: sign and ratify the convention and other binding law that helps us hold perpetrators to account, and allocating an adequate level of resources. Every woman has also made the business case for investing in measures to end violence against women and girls. And the third, sharing best practices. Thank you very much. In this spirit, in the spirit of sharing best practices, I will now turn to Ambassador Dr. Fancy Chepkemoi II, permanent representative of Kenya, to learn about the recent policies that Kenya has introduced to combat online harassment and violence. Dr. Tu is a lawyer and former dean of the School of Law at Kabarak University. She's held a number of senior roles in government and is also a recipient of the Moran of the Order of Burning Spear, top Kenyan honor. So the list that goes on and on. Ambassador Tu, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, moderator. Allow me to start by extending a warm welcome to the Honorable Minister, His Excellency Mr. Samuel Mbeba, to Geneva. Welcome, sir, or I say in the Kenyan language, karibu sana. Distinguished panelists, allow me to also just appreciate the co-conveners, DRC and Morocco, for convening this high-level event, specifically addressing cyber violence as a pressing human rights challenge, and underscore its importance as we commemorate the 16th Days of Activism, fully aligning with the theme, ending digital violence against all women and girls. In Kenya, we have experienced rapid digital growth with 49.36 million mobile subscription and 83% of youth aged 18 to 34 are online. These are widespread access to broadband-enabled mobile connections represents a positive stride towards digital inclusion, empowerment, and development of our people, especially for the youth and women. However, this connectivity have amplified technology-facilitated gender-based violence, including cyber harassment, doxing, and non-consensual image sharing, which disproportionately impact women in public life, such as journalists and politicians, just to name a few. Recent national policies and practices have been undertaken within Kenya to address some of these challenges. In particular, the government has prioritized digital safety through targeted reforms. The Ministry of Gender, Culture and Affirmative Action is developing what we call Digital Safe Space online portal for reporting technologically facilitated gender-based violence, providing referrals for justice, psychological support, and awareness resources to collect disaggregated data and strengthen survivor support system. Additionally, national policy on prevention and response to gender-based violence has reviewed to integrate technologically facilitated gender-based violence, including the cyber violence. The Sexual Offences Act of 2006 is under amendment for explicit definition and penalties. This has been a gap in terms of trying to deal with it because it's not properly defined in our current legislation. And the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act of 2015 is equally being updated with shelter regulations alongside revised national policy services standing operating procedures. Some of the lessons we have learned in this implementation process are, for instance, that there are key challenges, including legal gaps in defining technologically facilitated gender-based violence, anonymity enabling abuse, limited data, poor interagency coordination, and weak platform accountability, which hinder enforcement and amplifying trauma for survivors, including depression and withdrawal from online spaces. Lessons underscored the need for multi-sectoral collaboration as demonstrated by the Kenya hosting of the first global conference on technology-facilitated gender-based violence in March 2023, and membership in global platform forums for action on online harassment and abuse, uniting 14 states, organizations, civil societies to advance laws and data and prevention. The current membership comprises Kenya, Australia, Canada, Chile, Denmark, Sweden, France, Iceland, Mexico, New Zealand, Spain, Sweden, United Kingdom, and United States of America. The strategic objectives of this global partnership are built on shared commitment to advance national, regional, and multilateral laws and policies to prioritize, understand, prevent, and address the growing source of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, as well as to strengthen the evidence base for preventing and responding to technology-facilitated gender-based violence through investment in data. In conclusion, Kenya reiterates its call for enhanced global partnership to close legal, policy, and technological gaps. We welcome support from our digital safe space expansion into data management system with GPS mapped services, capacity building for police and health workers, and gender-sensitive implementation of the UN Convention Against Cybercrime. Together, we can safeguard women and girls online, advancing the SDG 5, 9, and 12. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, for this very informative and concise intervention full of practical suggestions What I'm taking away from your intervention is the need to address the legal challenges, especially around the definition of technology facilitated violence, the need to invest in data, and also the need to come together and forge partnerships that can really help us fill each other's gaps in a complementary fashion. So thank you very much for sharing these lessons and best practices. And speaking of lessons learned and best practices, I would now like to give the floor to Minister Councillor Stefano Pisotti, Deputy Permanent Representative of Italy, which, as you may know, just last week unanimously passed a law making femicide a distinct crime. So first of all, I would like to congratulate you and Italy on this major achievement. Mr. Pisotti, Minister Councillor, has previously served at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also within it at the Directorate General for Development Cooperation as Deputy Head of the Division for Strategies and Global Processes. Over to you.
Thank you, Farida. Thank you very much. I would like, first of all, to thank the Democratic Republic of Congo and Morocco, and of course, every woman for this opportunity to share the Italian experience and to also listen to experience of other countries. And because, as you said, I mean, this is really a global emergency. And this is an issue that concerns Italy as well. And we started to tackle it very decisively. As you mentioned, I mean, we have implemented, we have actually adopted a recent law which recognizes femicide as a distinct crime. This is historic for us. I mean, I think is a really powerful political sign of our engagement in this sector to tackle this issue, because I mean we all know that I mean online cyber violence, digital harassment are very often precursors, or let's say anticipatory factors of femicide. So this is, I mean, very much linked to one another. Let me just, I mean, make a step back. I think a lot of things have been said already. So I just want to pick up on some of them, because I mean the main principles, the main also actions that we should all together undertake are there, have been put forward. But I would like to focus on one particular aspect, which is the need to coordinated responses. If I think about, I mean, on a national level, we see that it is paramount to work across the government, really with all a government approach. Because, I mean, of course, you need law enforcement agencies, the police, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Technology, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because I mean you have this external dimension and this international cooperation, which is also crucial. The Ministry of Equal Opportunities. So the efforts we are trying to put together is to really work. I mean, all the ministers side by side, and it is also all of society effort, I think. I mean, media, schools, also sport organizations, civil society, and of course the private sector have to cooperate to address cyber violence and abuses online. So this is my first point. In terms of legal framework, I've said already, I mean, you mentioned it, the femicide as a distinct crime, but we are also, I mean, working on the transposition of the EU directive combating violence against women, which is a milestone of the EU recognition of gender-based violence as an obstacle to equality. We have adopted internally a national law on artificial intelligence, of course, aligned with the EU AI regulation, which promotes innovation on the one side, but also ensure a better protection of fundamental rights, both online and offline. And also we are working on updating our national strategic plan on violence against women. So you see it's a quite comprehensive legal package we are working on. But I would like to, let's say, echo a concept that was mentioned by other panelists, which is this is not only a legal battle. This is a cultural one. I would say mainly a cultural one, because it really starts from let's say addressing patriarchal structures, stereotypes, discriminations, inequalities. So we really have to work, I think, very important in schools and in societies, all different articulations of public life, work with children, with also with teachers, actually, because they are the ones that then they will pass on their knowledge in how to address gender-based violence in the online sphere. Maybe as a last point, because I know I'm taking maybe too long, but I'd like to go back to the international cooperation issue. So this is, I mean, gender-based violence and the online violence is transnational by nature. So we need to cooperate. So this is really important. We, as Italy, we want to this to be a priority of our participation to the Human Rights Council, where we are entering next year for the next three years. And so we want to promote a collective action in this domain. Also with I mean, contributing and participating to an international campaign, we have participated to the global campaign as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, to raise awareness worldwide. I think these are campaigns that are very important to raise awareness in international public opinion. And also we have let's say a national awareness raising campaign, which is called the Red Benches, that we'd like to mention here. It started in a neighborhood of Turin to, let's say, remember a femicide that took place there, and then rapidly spread across Italy. So, I mean, different municipalities and then big cities started to install these red benches to pay tribute to these victims, but also to as a sign of commitment towards addressing and tackling femicide and violence against women and girls. And now it's also, we are trying to take it abroad through the diplomatic network. So we have installed a red bench also in the in the park just before our permanent mission. So this, I mean, a sign. Of course, it's a little thing, but it's a sign of our commitment and we want to take forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Permanent Representative. And it's a very visual sign. It's a red bench, so it helps us raise awareness of this global public emergency. I appreciated your emphasis on the coordinated whole of society, whole of government approach. And I really look forward to working with you in your upcoming mandate at the Human Rights Council. We now quickly, because we're already very late, move to our last but not least, the panelist, Ms. Jane Aberhart-Hodges, representing civil society. Ms. Aberhart-Hodges has devoted her entire life to women's rights and gender issues, and most notably in her former role as director of the Gender Equality Bureau at the International Labor Organization, where she was really the main force drafting ILO Convention 190 on violence and harassment in the world of work, in the workplace. So please, Ms. Aberhart-Hodges, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'd like to join everyone in welcoming this fabulous panel and thanking the co-sponsors. And what an honor to be with 4 countries that really have something to say against this incredibly worrying new scourge of cyber violence against women and girls. Really a good choice of countries, all 4 of you. You've heard the data from 2 other speakers, but I'm going to repeat it. Between 16 and 58% of women worldwide have experienced some form of digital violence. 16% might make you think, but 58% is a worrying, seriously worrying data. Another piece of data from the same UN Women report done for the Beijing Plus 30, first experiences for women and girls of cyber violence are as early as 14 years of age to 16 years of age. These are little girls. And the women that are sitting around this table will remember what we were like at 14. Huh? I've got brothers who can tell me what they were like at 14. To be receiving this kind of non-consensual image sharing, stalking online, tech-facilitated abuse is going to worry, is going to shape those young women's lives forever. And that is a frightening thing in the face of all the other crises we have. So the scale of the crisis should really have us all on our toes at the moment. And I'm thrilled that we heard from Marcus about the seriousness taken in the new Cyber Violence Convention about the gender dimensions of it. But international law has not been silent in the past. We also heard that CEDAW, ratified by most of us around the table, I understand, already, particularly through its general recommendations 19 and 35, had been picking up on gender-based violence against women and girls, including cyber violence. But I would like to bring to the table the ILO Convention 190 that Farida kindly mentioned, because that is a 2019 text, but it was based on decades of research, as everyone understood that artificial intelligence was going to create the new world of work. So research was invested in by the ILO and partner agencies, including UN Women, of course, which led to this text, which specifically recognizes violence and harassment online. A huge breakthrough. The Convention 190 has so many useful, practical steps, but as a principle, it gives a very good definition of violence and harassment at work, and specifically talks beyond work in homes, domestic workers, workplaces, transportation to workplaces, but it goes into a lot of depth about digital spaces. Another beauty of the ILO international law approach is that it, of course, involves social partners, representatives of workers and employers, along with ministries responsible for employment, bringing in the civil society angle as wide as we can get. The involvement of the whole of government, whole of society, as we just heard from Italy, is to promote transformation in the workplaces, pushing for cultural change, tackling root causes. We know that with CEDAW, they've been trying to tackle root causes, gender stereotypes, and it all goes back to unequal power relations. So this was already present for centuries in the world of work. But now that we've got cyberspace, this power imbalance is just being generated to a wider potential audience and in a more vicious way. Convention 190 has now been ratified by 52 nations who've really set the commitment to work with their own internal tripartite organizations to eradicate gender-based violence, amongst other types of violence in the world of work. It lays the basis, in my opinion, for moving on to another type of instrument that would go beyond just the world of work, a global instrument that would bind states to end violence against women and girls. And speaking of ratification, I could not be on a panel without thanking Italy for being one of the first ratifiers of Convention 190, along with, as I say, now the 52. And of course, without thanking Vietnam for taking the initiative to sponsor the signing ceremony for the new Cybercrime Convention. This type of commitment shows publicly how governments can pave the way for safer, more secure workplaces, but in the cyberspace as well for women and girls. Let me look quickly at why we think the Cybercrime Convention should be ratified, just as the ILO 190 Convention should be ratified. The ILO Convention talks about extremely broad scope. That's not unlike the extremely broad scope now in the Cybercrime Convention. The ILO Convention links very much the human rights violation of gender-based violence with the occupational safety and health angle, a sort of a human rights angle, discrimination, but also a very technical workplace safety angle. And the Cybercrime Convention also has a lot of interesting clauses concerning rectification remedies for survivors of cybercrime. The ILO Convention particularly is strong on the need for national laws. So you've heard about countries that have just either updating like Kenya or have adopted like Vietnam, or similarly with Vietnam, Italy and DRC, getting the good laws out there, but implementing the laws, training the law, the entities that implement the law is crucial. And likewise, the Cybercrime Convention is strong on that. What we're already seeing from the 190 example is that through the reports that come into the ILO supervisory system, prevention pays. So implementation can really start with that. And involvement of civil society, we heard data collection, survivor-centered mechanisms are key to getting this message right up front. So let me end with a quick call for the involvement of civil society organizations. The ILO message has always been, for any of its international labour standards, involvement of trade unions and employer representatives, and as many interested government ministries as possible. But it also, this particular Convention 190 talks about survivors' organisations, youth advocates, women's rights groups. Under the Cybercrime Convention, there are some very interesting clauses. I hope Marcus is going to note that I've been reading it with great care about civil society involvement. It talks about including civil society, I think it's Article 54.6, be included in conducting evaluation studies and research. So that, of course, goes to the prevention message. And that civil society must be consulted in information exchange, Article 55, and must remain fully engaged in shaping and monitoring new standards on cyber violence. The states should cooperate with one another. That's a very strong message under the Cybercrime Convention, and we also heard that from other panelists now. But it also says states should cooperate with each other, relevant international and regional organisations. Thank you, African Union, for being a leading region on updating regional instruments concerning violence against women, and girls. But it also mentions the Cybercrime Convention, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, academic institutions, and private sector entities. So the text concerning monitoring, which was going to be this Conference of States Parties, under Article 57.5 makes it clear that civil society must be involved. Civil society has the potential to make the implementation stronger, to make life, the cyberspace, more safe for women and girls. And given the ILO experience of direct access of civil society within monitoring, this is a real message. So I'll read you the last Article 57 that says, inputs received from representatives of relevant non-governmental organisations, civil society organisations, academia and private sector, duly accredited in accordance with procedures, are to be decided upon by the conference. This must be considered. So bravo for the new Cybercrime Convention. Bravo for those of us who are really committed to Convention 190 in the world of work, but bravo to all of us for working so that cyberspace is safe for women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Eberhard-Hodges. I mean, this says it all. In a way, it helps us also connect the dots between what the Cybercrime Convention says, what ILO Convention 190 says for violence and harassment in the workplace, and of course, what the Women's Bill of Rights says, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. We are fast approaching the closing part of this very rich discussion. So what I would propose is that we quickly go around the room to see if there are questions. I see one from Ecuador, and then we'll move quickly to closing remarks. Please.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to join this discussion on an issue whose importance is increasingly recognized across the international community. The growing prevalence of cyber violence against women and girls, including forms of technology-facilitated abuse that mirrors and extend offline patterns of violence, highlights the need to ensure that digital spaces receive the same attention as traditional environments in safeguarding dignity and fundamental rights. We value the efforts of states, international organizations, and civil society to generate evidence and strengthen legal policy and technical responses, as well as the ongoing debates accompanying emerging multilateral frameworks related to cybercrime. The Hanoi Convention is a major accomplishment in this context. Ecuador has signed this convention. It's in the process of ratifying it. Ecuador thanks the co-organizers for convening this timely exchange and for creating a space to identify experiences, challenges, and opportunities across different regions and institutional settings. In that spirit and looking ahead, we would be interested in hearing the panel's reflections on the following question, even though some important suggestions have been made already. How can the international community promote more coherent and mutually reinforcing approaches between gender equality and prevention of cyber violence against women and girls frameworks, while preserving an open and secure digital space for all? In this spirit, we reaffirm our readiness to continue engaging in forums that examine these issues in an inclusive and cooperative manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for this very relevant, poignant intervention. And now I would like to give the floor to Monsieur Gobi, who works together with Madame Chantal Mulop, Special Advisor for the End the Violence Against Women and Girls agenda from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Please.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madame Farida. The Minister has said what we agree with. I would like to state my gratitude in the name of Madame Chantal for having been invited at this event. And so the Democratic Republic of Congo has legal instruments and also mechanisms that are available. And we believe that this side event helps us to understand even further and to provide us with further elements to strengthen everything that we already have available. But in any case, we would like to continue to fight this scourge together. Thank you very much.
This event. Do I see any other question from the room? Yes. Can you please identify yourself?
Voilà, mon nom est Alfred Gondo.
My name is Alfred Gondo. I'm a counselor of NGO. Beyond the consensus of the entire panel, I would like to talk about the problem of technology. The Global South countries do not master technology and do not manufacture telephones. That is on the basis of this manufacture of telephones that we can protect at the local level by using certain techniques with computer experts and engineers in order to protect the mental health of adolescents. I will not cite any country, or large country, and there's a country that has blocked the TikTok system. The system that they use is not the international system, but a system that is a national system. So I believe that we have to examine in terms of technology for those countries, for example, DRC, how they can work with their engineers in order to block these platforms that do provide problems that are problematic. Like in the Army, you have a encrypted system that can protect data, but I respect technology, but I also respect the legal framework and everything that has been said about this subject.
We've just barely scratched the surface of this very complex issue where we should really also engage technological companies and social media platforms, and that perhaps will be for a follow-up event. So in the last 5 minutes, what I would propose is that we ask our distinguished panelists to make maybe a 30-second final remark on this event, and if possible, to answer this question. What kind of incentives would help us, the international community, engage tech companies more meaningfully or just more than what they are already doing, for example, in Vietnam? What would you like to see happening? And let me start with the minister or ambassador. Who would like to start? Maybe Ambassador. Oh. Or the minister. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So Ambassador.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the floor again. And I think that it is a very interesting question, and I'd like maybe to share an experiences in Vietnam in working with the technology companies in Vietnam in preventing cyber violence against women and girls. In Vietnam, technology companies are essential partners in this effort. For us, they control the platforms where much of these kind of violence occurs, and they have technical capabilities that governments often lack. So in Vietnam experiences, we need companies to first design safety into their products from the outset. And this includes reporting mechanism, transparent content moderation policies, and effective response to report of gender-based violence. And second, cooperate with law enforcement in investigating serious cases while respecting due process and privacy protections. Our work with Facebook, for example, Google, Facebook, TikTok, and other platforms has led to removal of hundreds of toxic groups and applications targeting women and children. And third, invest in local. It is very important from our point of view. The fact that we have to, they have to invest in local language capacity and cultural understanding. What constitutes harassment or hate speech can be context specific. So the Hanoi Convention provides a framework for this public-private cooperation, and we encourage all platforms operating globally to engage constructively with governments to make the digital space safer for women and girls. Just my observation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Madam Ambassador, Dr. Tu.
Thank you so much, moderator. I concur with the recommendation by my colleague who said it is a shared responsibility and there is need for collaboration. But perhaps just to emphasize that there is need to continue raising awareness that just the way we expect a physical space to be safe, we expect an online space to be safe as well. And everyone is vulnerable, including the very entities that are providing the same services. So I think once that is clear for everybody, it is easier to synergize and collaborate to make sure we provide a safer and pragmatic ways of dealing with the challenges that it comes with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. And now, Minister Councillor Pizzotti.
Thank you. Well, I think collaboration is key. As I mentioned, I think we have to engage also the private sector, tech companies in the efforts that are made by the let's say public administration, the government, so that they are part of the solution. I mean, we cannot, I think, solve the problem without the ones that have the technology, that make the investments, they have the know-how. So we have to actually fully involve in the process also of policy making and in so that they are part of a kind of multi-stakeholder effort. I think it's, I mean, they are also key for investments because, I mean, the other part of the coin is that, I mean, digital inequalities are also there, and millions of women and girls have not internet access. So this reinforces inequalities and create maybe new ones. So we have to involve the private sector both to help us tackle cyber violence. At the same time, we have to incentivize them to make the right investments to close or to bridge the digital divide. Thanks.
Very true. Thank you very much, Councillor. And now Ms. Aberhart-Hodges. No? Okay. We do have Marcus online. Mr. Stemeseder, would you have a 1-minute final thought on how we can more meaningfully engage tech companies?
Thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me correctly. I can only reiterate what has been said already by previous panelists. Thank you very much.
Maybe you need to put on your headset to listen to his intervention. Yes.
I can only reiterate what has already been said. I would like to thank everybody for all their efforts in making cyberspace more safe and secure and just. Thank you very much.
That was short and to the point. Thank you very much, Marcus. And now for our final remarks, I will kindly ask Minister Kabuya to say a few words.
Merci.
Thank you. I would like to talk about the panelists that underscored the importance of collaboration between the states and the private sector companies for the protection of women and girls. I would like to take this opportunity to ask for support from the Congolese government to in the combat that it is leading for the benefit of women and girls in our country. I would like to give you the witness of a woman who is the wife of a judge who was very against the M123 in the Congo, which is taking place in the east of the country when the attackers came to kill and to attack her husband. The husband was not there, however, so they took advantage of the situation and grabbed the woman. What they did while they were raping her, they were sending instantaneously the images to her husband who was fleeing using the phone of the lady. And so we were there the next day in Goma. The woman was dishonored and she took her children and she gave the children to her relatives and she threw herself into the lake and committed suicide. And and this was truly what happened. Not only had she been raped, but also those images had been weaponized in the social networks, and she felt dishonored even more. So it is a call to support the combat taken by the Democratic Republic of Congo, that it is leading for the benefit of the rights of women and girls who are truly raped and violated systematically in the eastern part of the country by Rwanda and the Alliance Fleuve Congo.
Especially, and again, thank you for making this issue of online violence and more broadly violence against women and girls a global public priority, because it is. In closing, I would like to ask our co-host to share a few final words. Ambassador Mpolelo Soko Ifambe.
Merci, Madame Farida. Et je voudrais...
Thank you, Madame Ferraz. Excellencies, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, distinguished panelists and colleagues. I would like to say that the theme of this high-level event has to do with violence against all women and young girls. And so I would like to repeat on behalf of my country and the Kingdom of Morocco and every woman our profound thanks for the quality of the exchanges, the richness of the debates, and the exchanges that you had. The debates this afternoon highlighted with great clarity what we all share, that cyber violence against women and girls is not a peripheral element or threat. It is a true threat to all of our societies, all of our institutions, and our technology. We need a strong, solid reaction. And we need ambitious efforts. We have listened to experts and member states. They have talked about how urgent it is to bridge the divide in the legal sector and the cultural sector. And oftentimes survivors cannot find adequate justice and help. And that makes them even more vulnerable. And we have to prevent this cyber violence. We have listened to how the minister had said, and his president had done, had reasserted their will to work against cyber violence against women and girls. This combat cannot be won unless we mobilize the entire society, including men and boys, and to ensure equality of gender under principles of respect. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have started today is not a conversation. It is an extra step to build an international response that is strong, coherent, and protective. To have a better word, no girl or woman will be threatened and have her honor removed. Thank you so much for your presence here, and thank you for your commitment to this noble cause. So we will remain mobilized to continue the work in the spirit of multilateralism, solidarity, and respect of human rights. Once again, thank you for your attention, and I wish you all an excellent end of day. Thank you very much.
Jane, I know it's late and we've had a rich discussion. What I can say on behalf of every woman is really a big thank you to all the panelists, excellencies, dear participants, both in this room and online. We will follow up. This conversation is too important to just stop here. And I do have hope that together we will build an online ecosystem that really reflects the same equality, justice, and safety that we seek offline. So with that, thank you very much again for joining us today. Have a good evening.